They say keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but what if your enemy was pretending to be your friend, while secretly filming your bedroom and wearing your perfume to seduce your husband? My neighbor played the role of sweet and helpful, but she had cameras in my home and fantasies in her mind. So I gave her a show, and then gave her boyfriend a front row seat to her downfall. Hi. I'm Eva McAllister. And this is the story of how my neighbor, Rachel, tried to steal my husband, and how I made her regret ever stepping foot into my kitchen. I want you to imagine something. You're standing at your stove, stirring soup, and the woman next door pops her head in, smiling like sunshine, saying, "Smells amazing. You really spoil him, huh?" Sweet, right? Helpful, friendly, almost too friendly. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. But paranoia doesn't explain the fact that the exact perfume I gifted Rachel last Christmas was now suddenly lingering on my husband's shirt collar when he hugged me. The same one I never wore. Still, I let it go. Until one morning, I was dusting the living room, and the vase on our side table shifted oddly. It had weight. I lifted it, and inside was a tiny lens. A camera. Hidden inside dried flowers. I stood there for 10 whole minutes, heart pounding, bile rising, rage building. That was the moment I knew Rachel wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was obsessed. But I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I smiled. I knocked on her door that afternoon with fresh banana bread and chatted like nothing was wrong. I waved to her boyfriend, Dan, who worked remotely and barely left the house. Over the next few days, I made sure Rachel kept recording. I staged a fake fight with my husband. Poured a glass of water on him. Slammed doors. Sobbed into my hands, loud, dramatic, Oscar-worthy. Then I went into my room, knowing her camera would catch the reflection in the mirror as I threw off my robe and cried into a pillow in just my slip. Later that night, I logged into her Wi-Fi using credentials she'd once boasted about knowing nothing about. It's just Rachel 123. And found the footage being auto-uploaded to her cloud. I downloaded it all. Every minute. Every angle. Then I added a few images of her in my mirror, wearing my lipstick, practicing seductive faces. I'd seen her do it through the baby monitor I planted in my own guest bathroom. Then I crafted the perfect email to Dan, her loyal boyfriend of 6 years. Subject line: "Thought you should know what your girlfriend's doing next door." I attached the footage. The selfies. The mirrored obsessions. The video of her brushing his hair from my husband's coat when she thought no one was watching. Within 48 hours, Dan moved out. Took his dog, his keyboard, and every ounce of his dignity with him. He also posted the entire confrontation on Reddit, under a burner account. The video? Viral. Rachel was fired from her remote gig for violating privacy laws. Her family disowned her. And her face became the poster child of crazy next-door girl memes. As for my husband? When I presented the footage to him, he stammered. Said it wasn't what it looked like. I said, "Oh, I know what it looked like. That's why I sent it to my lawyer." We divorced quietly, but not cheaply. I left him with an empty house, an empty garage, and a subpoena. I took his car, his stocks, the dog he loved, and the silence of the woman who tried to become me. Moral of the story? When someone copies your scent, your lipstick, your life, don't panic. Just let them write their own script and press record. Would you have confronted her directly, or done what I did? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel for more twisted true stories. And hey, where are you watching from? I love seeing how far these stories travel. You ever get that feeling someone's eyes are on you, even when you're alone? That night, after I found the camera inside the flower vase, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared, but because I was calculating. You see, Rachel didn't just want to flirt with my husband. No, that would be too simple. Rachel wanted my life. My kitchen. My furniture. My man. My scent. She wanted to slip into my skin like it was a costume she'd earned. The scary part? I think she believed she deserved it. So I let her watch me. That night, I left the vase camera exactly where it was. I lit a candle. Put on the same robe she'd once complimented. I brushed my hair slowly in front of the mirror, humming a lullaby my grandmother used to sing. And then I crawled into bed and turned toward the camera, eyes wide open. Let her record it. Let her wonder what I knew. Let the obsession boil over. And it did. The next morning, she showed up with lemon scones. Still warm. Still smiling. You looked tired, she said. Rough night? Her voice dripped with syrup, but her eyes were darting left, right, checking to see if I knew. She was nervous. Good. That meant the leash was tightening. I thanked her. Ate the scone. And asked, Rachel, do you ever get dreams that feel so real, you're not sure if you're awake? She paused. Her lips twitched. Then she laughed a little too loud. Oh, all the time, she said. What I didn't tell her was that I'd already planted a new camera, my camera, hidden behind the bookends on the shelf facing the living room. It wasn't just me being watched now. I was watching her watching me. That night, I tested her. I placed a glass of wine on the table. Dressed in red. Whispered my husband's name softly, like I was lonely. My husband was out at a business dinner, though I already knew Rachel was texting him under the name Randy, her supposed coworker. Funny thing is, she wasn't even subtle. I once saw her phone light up while she was tying her shoelace in my hallway. The contact name? Mark from gym. That's my husband. He hasn't been to a gym in 5 years. So I added to the illusion. I dropped a scarf with my perfume near the back door, her side of the property. I made sure my bathroom window was cracked just enough to hear me singing while I showered. I didn't want her to stop. I wanted her to fall all the way in. Because here's the thing, obsession is like wet sand. The more you claw for it, the deeper you sink. And Rachel was already ankle deep, smiling, pretending she wasn't losing herself in my reflection. She started wearing colors I wore. She changed her part to match mine. Even cut her hair short, just like I had last spring. She started using my phrases. Called my husband babe by accident once, then laughed it off like it was nothing. I laughed too, but only with my mouth. Not my eyes. You know what my husband said when I asked if he noticed anything strange about Rachel? She's just friendly. You're being paranoid. Paranoid? I smiled. Because paranoia meant I still had a heart. But what I was feeling was cold. I wasn't scared. I was building. Quietly. Brick by brick. Frame by frame. Let her dig her hole. I had the shovel. And I was about to bury them both in their own footage. They say when a snake sheds its skin, it's still a snake. Rachel shed hers daily, peeling away the sweet girl next door mask and revealing the woman obsessed with stealing my life. But here's the part she didn't realize, I had shed my skin too. The woman I used to be, the one who baked pies and trusted neighbors, was gone. And in her place was a strategist. A woman playing chess, not checkers. And Rachel? She was still thinking in tic-tac-toe. That Tuesday night, my husband worked late again. I watched through the hidden baby monitor I'd planted in the spare room, one she never knew I used. And sure enough, a shadow crept across my hallway on silent, sock-covered feet. It was Rachel. Keys in hand. Yes, my house keys. The spares I kept in the mailbox, gone days ago. She didn't knock. Didn't call. Just let herself in. And I was already gone, sitting in my car across the street, phone recording the security feed. Watching her as she slinked into my home like a serpent in yoga pants. I watched her brush her fingers across the framed photo of my wedding day. Sit on my bed. Pull open my nightstand drawer and look through the letters I'd written to my husband when we were still in love. She didn't cry. She smiled. Like it was hers now. Then she did something that made my jaw clench so hard I thought I'd crack a molar. She took out her phone, turned to my mirror, and whispered, "Mark, I know you wish I was her, but I'll be better." She kissed her own reflection. That's when I pressed save. Not just that moment, but the whole hour she spent touching my belongings, lying on my pillow, and pretending she was the mistress of the house. The next morning, I waited until 8:13 a.m., right after I knew Dan, her boyfriend, would have just opened his inbox at his tech job. I sent her an anonymous email with a link titled, "It's not your house. It's not your man. But it is your face on this tape." No words. Just the footage. I timed it perfectly. Because at 8:27 a.m., I got a message from Dan's old Instagram, blown open with a flurry of stories and screenshots. Rachel's meltdown had begun. She smashed her phone. Dan kicked her out. Her parents called mine, thinking she'd lost her mind. She posted one cryptic quote on Facebook, "Be careful who you pretend to be. You might forget who you are." Too late, sweetheart. You already did. And my husband? When I showed him the footage, he tried to downplay it. She's clearly unstable. You should have told me sooner. Oh no, Mark. I wanted her to go this far. I needed proof. I needed obsession. I needed her fantasy to consume her until her real life crumbled. Because a rumor ruins a woman. But receipts ruin a reputation. And mine? I was just getting started. I haven't even told you what I did with the footage from his office yet. They always say it starts with a gut feeling. And mine? Mine screamed the day he laughed and said, "Rachel? She's just a friend, Eva. She helped organize the charity dinner, that's all." Charity dinner, my ass. The only thing she was organizing was my slow erasure from my house, my marriage, my life. But I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. I was still gathering evidence. So, I went corporate. I drove to his office building that Thursday. Brought him lunch like a loving wife. Smiled at the receptionist. Gave a cheery wave to his assistant, Carla, who looked like she'd rather throw herself out the 5th-floor window than be stuck between us. When Mark walked me out, I accidentally left my scarf on the guest chair, carefully pinned with a small listening device I bought online for less than what he used to spend on Rachel's overpriced espresso orders. That night, I synced the feed. And I heard everything. Turns out, Rachel wasn't just a neighbor with boundary issues. She was a freelance consultant Mark brought in to help with image branding. What that meant was she got paid to sit on his desk, flirt during meetings, and plant ideas in his head like, "You deserve someone who really gets you, Mark. Someone creative. Passionate. Mature, but not bold." I wasn't angry. I was focused. And then came the real prize, one recording that began with a door clicking shut, Rachel's voice saying, "Lock it this time," and the sound of my husband chuckling, followed by silence that felt like a scream. I didn't even flinch. I just hit record screen. You see, I wasn't collecting these moments to hurt me. I was collecting them to destroy them. And my lawyer, sweet, brilliant Leanne, was already preparing the divorce papers. With that audio, the video from my home, and their digital paper trail, I didn't just have grounds. I had a grand finale. But I wanted one more thing before I dropped the bomb. I wanted them to admit it to each other. So I texted Mark from a burner number, "Rachel's boyfriend knows." "I know. Cameras see everything. Watch your back." Within 20 minutes, Mark had Rachel in his office again. The panic in their voices was delicious. "You said the cameras were fake." "I didn't think she'd be smart enough to check the flower vase." If Dan saw those videos, I'm screwed. We're screwed. Oh yes, you are. By the end of the week, I mailed Rachel a copy of their office conversation, with a sticky note that simply read, "This is your NDA. Silent or scandalous." She never replied. She never spoke my name again. In fact, she packed her things and moved 2 towns over. Probably into someone else's marriage. As for Mark? I served him papers during his company's quarterly board meeting. In front of the entire boardroom, with the audio from his office piped through my attorney's iPad. You could hear a pin drop. Followed by the CEO saying, "Effective immediately, you're on leave." I walked out holding my lawyer's arm and the signed car title to Mark's beloved Range Rover. And I wasn't done. Because next, I made sure Rachel's new employer saw everything. You'd think after being caught seducing her neighbor's husband, getting kicked out by her own boyfriend, and losing the only home she'd ever owned, Rachel would shrink into shame and vanish. But no, she did what all narcissists do. She reinvented herself. Changed her hairstyle, deleted her social media, and resurfaced at a luxury branding agency in the next town over, rebranded as Ray Sinclair, image consultant to the elite. Cute, right? Except she didn't realize that I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. You see, Rachel didn't just hurt me. She insulted my intelligence. She used my home as a set, my husband as a prop, and my life as a fantasy. And while I had already ruined her love life and reputation, I wanted to make sure she never again used another woman's world to build her own. So, I became her client. I created a fake business name, Eva K Interiors, a luxury home staging startup. Designed a website. Paid for a Google listing. Even made a few social media posts using AI-generated rooms and interiors. I booked her through her new firm's assistant, pretending to be a wealthy client in need of image rebranding for upscale clientele. The day she walked into the mock studio I'd rented, she didn't even recognize me. I wore a sleek brown wig, gold-rimmed glasses, and a business suit, not the soft-spoken wife she used to pity. I introduced myself as Evelyn K., and she smiled with the same fake warmth she used to give me when asking to borrow sugar. I recorded everything. I asked her about ethics. Her views on discretion. Her client policies. She bragged. Said she never mixes work and romance, that she believes in authentic branding. Oh, Rachel. You sweet, delusional hypocrite. When she left, I had what I needed. I mailed an anonymous package to her boss. Inside, a printed photo of Rachel in my bedroom, touching my wedding ring. A USB with audio of her affair admissions. Screenshots of Reddit posts from her ex-boyfriend that went viral, with comments like, "Don't hire this woman, she seduced her married neighbor." A cover letter that simply said, "Would you trust your brand in her hands?" By Friday, her face was wiped clean off their website. The assistant I'd booked through emailed Evelyn to apologize for the canceled campaign. Rachel posted one vague quote on LinkedIn, "Starting over isn't weakness. It's growth. You're not growing, sweetheart. You're just falling in a different direction." I watched from a distance as she tried to pick up the pieces again. But every job she applied to? I'd already been there, with her receipts. No threats. No slander. Just facts. Because when you live your life as a performance, it only takes one woman with the original script to expose your lies. As for Mark? He begged to speak to me privately after the divorce was finalized. Said he missed the old me. I told him she died the day he let another woman call herself me in my own home. Then I drove off in his car, past her old apartment, and into the future that neither of them would be allowed to follow. Desperation makes people dangerous. Rachel's fall from grace wasn't just public humiliation or lost jobs, it became a dark obsession with revenge. When you burn bridges, sometimes you try to burn down the whole neighborhood. And that's exactly what she tried to do. About 2 weeks after I cut off all ties, my phone started acting strange. Strange notifications. Login attempts from unknown devices. My bank sent me alerts about password reset requests I never made. My email inbox was flooded with phishing scams cleverly disguised to look like messages from me. It was obvious. Rachel was trying to hack me. But here's the thing about revenge, it's a double-edged sword. When she attacked, she didn't realize I'd already been preparing. Months before, I'd hired a cybersecurity expert named Leah, a friend, to monitor all my digital footprints. I told her the situation was sensitive, but I didn't reveal the full story. Leah installed monitoring software, firewalls, and alert systems. So when Rachel's clumsy attempts began, I was watching. Every keystroke, every IP address traced, every digital footprint logged. I gathered all the proof and handed it over to the police. But I also took a more creative approach. I sent Rachel a message through an anonymous burner account. "You're playing a dangerous game, Ray. Stop now, or this ends worse than you think." She didn't stop. She escalated, targeting my social media, trying to impersonate me online, even attempting to sabotage my credit score. But every time she tried, Leah and I were one step ahead, trapping her in her own web. Then came the piece de resistance. Leah and I created a fake server, designed to look like my bank's internal system. When Rachel tried to breach it, thinking she'd accessed my accounts, she actually triggered an alert that recorded her entire hacking session, including her real IP and location. That file went straight to the FBI Cybercrime Division. Within days, Rachel was served with a cease and desist order and an invitation for a little chat with federal agents. I wasn't sure if she realized she was facing serious criminal charges, but the fear in her messages afterward told me everything. My husband? He vanished after that, too scared to face the fallout or admit what he'd done. I got full custody of the house, my stocks, the car, and the peace I fought so hard for. But here's the truth, none of this was about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my life and dignity. So, what would you do if your neighbor tried to steal everything from you? Would you fight back or walk away? Let me know in the comments. And remember to like, share, and subscribe my channel for more stories like this. Stay safe, everyone. When Rachel realized hacking wasn't working, she turned vicious, targeting the people I loved most. It started with a text message to my daughter's phone: "Your mother is a liar and a thief. Watch your back." Then my son's school email was flooded with anonymous threats. I never knew a stranger could make me feel so exposed and helpless, like my family was walking on glass shards every single day. But I'm no victim. I traced those threats back to her burner phone, one I'd secretly hacked with Leah's help. Then I did something she never expected. I flipped the script. Instead of reacting with fear, I sent Rachel a simple video message. It showed my kids laughing in the backyard, safe, happy, and surrounded by neighbors who'd witnessed Rachel's cruelty firsthand. Overlaid on the video was a single message: "They are protected. You are alone." Next, I enlisted my community. I shared Rachel's harassment attempts with the local police and school board. They increased security, blocked her numbers, and launched an official investigation. Rachel's desperation spiraled. She showed up at our neighborhood association meetings, trying to gaslight everyone, claiming I was harassing her. But thanks to the evidence I'd collected, the messages, the cameras, the witnesses, her lies fell apart like a house of cards. One afternoon, she even came to my door, wild-eyed and furious, screaming threats that echoed through the street. I didn't flinch. I calmly took out my phone and started recording. "Smile, Rachel," I said softly. "This is the last time anyone will listen to you." Within hours, her restraining order request was denied, and instead, a protective order was placed against her, barring her from approaching me or my family. As for my husband? He called, begging to come back. I told him he could try, but he'd have to answer to me first. Revenge isn't just about payback, it's about survival. Have you ever felt your family was threatened? How did you respond? Share your story below. And if you're still here, make sure to like, share, and subscribe my channel. More stories of strength and survival are coming your way. I thought Rachel's obsession started with me. I thought she wanted my husband, my home, my peace. But story in next of this nightmare, I realized something far more twisted. Rachel didn't just want to be me. She wanted to replace me. And not just in my marriage, but in my entire identity. Because the secret she was hiding had nothing to do with Mark. It had everything to do with my past. It started with a letter. A real one. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name, scrawled in a shaky hand across an ivory envelope slipped under my door. Inside were 4 words, "You forgot about Peter." I stared at it for a long time. Because Peter was a name I hadn't heard in 25 years. A name I buried along with the trauma that came with it. Peter was my first husband. A violent man. Controlling. Charming in public, monstrous in private. I left him under a sealed restraining order after he nearly put me in the hospital. I changed towns. Changed names. And eventually, rebuilt. But somehow, Rachel had found him. I knew immediately the danger this posed. Not just to me, but to my kids. My job. My safety. I contacted Leah again. We scoured Rachel's online activity, and deep in her hidden folders, we found the connection. Rachel had used my maiden name, found through a discarded holiday card Mark had shared on Facebook, and ran a background check on it. She'd tracked down Peter through a private investigator forum, posing as an old friend. I couldn't believe it. She contacted him. Gave him my new name. My address. My life. For weeks, I hadn't seen it coming. But I had seen a strange car parked outside more than once. I thought it was her. Turns out, it was him. I filed an emergency report with the local police and sent every piece of digital evidence linking Rachel to the breach. Peter was placed under a restraining order immediately, but the damage was done. My peace was shattered all over again. But I didn't cower. I confronted Rachel at her new apartment. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I handed her a folder. Inside, copies of every message she sent to Peter. Surveillance photos of her meeting him at a coffee shop. A copy of the lawsuit I'd filed against her for endangerment, stalking, and harassment. And on top of it? A flash drive. One she didn't expect. It contained her own dirty secret, photos of her with Peter. Touching. Laughing. Whispering. Flirting. She wasn't just trying to bring my past back. She was trying to date it. Sick doesn't even begin to describe it. She stared at the folder, hands trembling. "You don't understand what he promised me," she whispered. "He said you ruined him." I smiled coldly. "No, Rachel. He ruined himself. Just like you're doing now." I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the doorway of her empty life. She tried to burn me with my past. I used hers to torch her future. You know what happens when a woman like Rachel starts losing control? She doesn't just crumble. She explodes and takes everyone down with her. That's what previous story taught me. Because just when I thought I had reached the final curtain in this twisted opera, her past came knocking on my door. And they weren't there to defend her. They were begging me to stop. It started with a phone call at 10:43 p.m. I never answer unknown numbers that late, but something about this one felt off. I picked up and a soft voice said, "Is this Eva?" "My name's Claire. I'm Rachel's mother." My stomach tightened. I didn't know what to expect, an angry rant? A warning? A threat? But what I got was something I never saw coming. Claire apologized. Not just for what Rachel had done to me, but for what she was about to do to herself. She hasn't been right since college, Claire whispered. She gets obsessed. She disappears into people. You're not the first, but you're the only one who fought back. My hands went cold. I sat in silence as Claire explained how Rachel had been in therapy twice, once after stalking a professor who rejected her, and again after a friend she was living with changed the locks. She had a pattern. A documented one. Rachel would fixate, copy, seduce, sabotage, and when she couldn't win, she'd unravel. She thinks if she becomes someone, they can't leave her, Claire said. And now she's convinced you destroyed her life. Claire wasn't begging me to forgive. She was begging me to be careful. She's spiraling, Eva. She's not done. And she was right. That weekend, I found a box placed by my back door. Inside, a ripped wedding photo of me and Mark, my old perfume bottle, empty, and a note that simply read, "You win. For now." I handed everything to the police. They increased the terms of her restraining order. Leah helped me secure every digital corner of my life. I bought cameras for my kids' school pickups. I checked every lock twice. But something about Claire's voice haunted me. The pain. The guilt. And the question that echoed, what happens when a child weaponizes their wounds, and the world just watches? I didn't respond to Rachel. I didn't retaliate. I stayed silent. Because by now, everyone saw what she was. Her job was gone. Her relationships scorched. And now her own family had turned away, saying, enough. But it wasn't enough for Rachel. And it wouldn't be until she pulled one last stunt, the kind that puts her name in the news. Some people disappear quietly. Rachel? She wanted the final act to be fireworks. Not a whisper, not an apology, but a public spectacle. And in Next, she gave the world exactly that. Except, she didn't realize the stage she stormed belonged to me. A month after the court extended the restraining order, I was invited to speak on a local morning show, Voices of Resilience. It was about women who'd overcome trauma, betrayal, manipulation. Fitting, right? I didn't name names. I kept it classy. I spoke about reclaiming identity after being targeted. How women should trust their instincts. How obsession can wear a smile and smell like flowers. The cameras were rolling. The audience applauded. And right when the host leaned in and asked, "What would you say to the woman who tried to become you?" that studio door slammed open. And there she was. Rachel. Hair disheveled. Lipstick smeared. Eyes wild. Dressed in a nearly identical outfit to mine. She didn't look like a woman, she looked like a ghost cosplaying as me. Security ran toward her. The host gasped. The producers started shouting off camera. But I didn't move. I just stared. And Rachel screamed, "You stole him. You made me look crazy. I was you before you even knew yourself." The entire room went silent. Then she pointed at the camera. "I didn't ruin her life, she ruined mine. You think she's a victim? She's a manipulator. A liar." I tilted my head, calm as ever. And softly replied, "Rachel, the cameras are live." She blinked. Once. Twice. Then looked around like a sleepwalker waking from a nightmare. And that's when the security team gently, very gently, escorted her out. The host whispered, "Do we cut?" But I shook my head. "No," I said. "Let it stay." The interview aired unedited. Went viral in 72 hours. Over 2.3 million views in 5 days. Headlines read, "Newspaper woman confronts stalker live on morning TV newspaper. This is the face of obsession." And the woman who survived it. Newspaper Eva McAllister's silence was louder than screaming. Rachel became a national conversation, memes, think pieces, reaction videos. But this time, it wasn't glamour. it was accountability. Even her mother Claire called to say, "Thank you for not shaming her. Thank you for showing the world the truth without cruelty." But the truth? I wasn't proud. I wasn't satisfied. I was just exhausted. I never wanted fame. I wanted peace. But Rachel wasn't done, not entirely. Because after her televised breakdown, something even darker surfaced. A secret account. Hidden for years. And it had my name all over it. You ever get that feeling someone's living in your shadow, but the shadow feels too exact? That was Rachel. But what I didn't realize, what I hadn't even imagined, was that while she was wrecking my real life, she was building a fake one behind the scenes. A digital double. An alternate version of me. It started with a tag. Just a simple tag on a post from a total stranger. A woman I'd never met messaged me on Facebook, "Hey, I love your cooking blog. Your mushroom risotto changed my life. Sending love from Atlanta." Except, I don't have a cooking blog. I clicked the link she sent and my heart stopped. There it was. An Instagram page with my face. My name Eva_K_home, spelled slightly differently. And photos of my actual kitchen, my plates, even my dog. Dozens of posts. Quotes I'd said on Facebook years ago. Even screenshots of emails I'd once sent Mark, twisted into captions like, "Don't be afraid to love like you've never been hurt." Eva K. It had over 12,000 followers. And then I found the worst part, videos. Fake vlogs. Voiceovers in a soothing tone, pretending to be me, narrating healing from betrayal and how I found peace in marriage after the storm. Only, they weren't my words. They were Rachel's. She'd made a persona. She became me online. She didn't just copy my life, she manufactured a better one in my name. She posted couples' stock photos and pretended they were reconciliation shots. She answered fan questions in my voice. And one caption read, "Some women try to tear us down when we shine. I forgive them. Even the bitter ones next door." That post was dated 2 days after she broke into my bedroom. I couldn't even cry. I just stared. I called Leah again. We launched a forensic sweep. Every photo was traced. Metadata tracked. IP addresses geolocated. And one by one, every post unraveled into a digital map of her obsession. Rachel hadn't just tried to erase me in real life, she was replacing me online. She wanted to steal my identity without the paperwork. I contacted Meta Legal with the evidence. Within 48 hours, the page was frozen. And within a week, Eva_K_home was removed. But the real kicker? The followers. Because some of them were women who had no idea it was fake. Some had sent her gifts. One had mailed a hand-painted mug with my name on it. She was receiving mail. As me. I tracked the P.O. box. And when I opened it, I found letters addressed to Eva McAllister, praising my strength and my cookbook. She'd even taken pre-orders for a book that didn't exist. She wasn't just stealing my name. She was profiting off my pain. So I filed a lawsuit. Digital impersonation. Fraud. Emotional damage. Unauthorized commercial use of my likeness. And the day she was served? She posted one last message on a private backup account, before it was deleted. You can't copyright a feeling. I was her better version. Let that sink in. She believed she was the improved version of me. The polished one. The brand. But she forgot the one thing that makes us human: we earn our lives. We don't steal them. When someone impersonates you online, it feels like theft. But when they try to tell your story, in your voice, and profit from your pain, that's not theft. That's warfare. And in Next, I went to battle. Not with fists. Not with fire. but with truth. And a book that would become her downfall. A week after we shut down Rachel's fake Instagram account, I got an email from a boutique publishing house in Oregon. The subject line made my breath hitch: follow-up on Love After Betrayal by Eva McAllister. Attached were a PDF proposal, cover mock-ups, and a draft of a manuscript. I opened it, hands trembling, and read the first few lines. When my husband betrayed me, I didn't collapse. I created a space where pain and love could coexist, my kitchen. My sanctuary. It sounded like me. But it wasn't. It was Rachel. Word for word, post for post, she had compiled her stolen captions, voiceovers, and journal entries from my life and submitted them as a memoir. I called the publisher immediately. That woman is not Eva McAllister. I am. They were stunned. Embarrassed. But to their credit, cooperative. I emailed them the court restraining order, legal records, and even screenshots from the fake blog and voiceover analysis proving it wasn't me speaking. They pulled the proposal the next day. But I wasn't done. That manuscript rattled something in me. Not rage. Not humiliation. Something defiant. She had used my voice to tell a lie. So I decided I'd use my voice to tell the truth. I started writing. For real this time. No fake captions. No aesthetic filters. Just raw, bloody honesty. Chapter by chapter, I wrote the story of what Rachel did to me, how she infiltrated my home, seduced my husband, filmed me, hacked me, impersonated me, and tried to erase me. I didn't just write about what happened. I wrote how it felt. The paranoia. The fury. The grief. The guilt of not catching it sooner. And the power of taking your life back. It took 3 weeks. I barely slept. I barely ate. I wrote like a woman exorcising a demon. Then I titled it, The Woman Who Tried to Replace Me. And I sent it to the same publisher. They called within 48 hours. We want it. All of it. Untouched. And here's the twist, Rachel found out. How? I don't know. But 3 days after my deal was signed, I received an anonymous email: if you publish that, I'll burn everything you love. I didn't reply. Instead, I posted a selfie. Holding the publishing contract. Captioned simply, some stories aren't stolen. They're survived. It went viral. Again. Over 1.8 million views. Thousands of women DM'd me, thank you. I've been there. She copied me too. Rachel didn't show her face. Not online. Not in court. But her silence was louder than her screams ever were. The book hits shelves next month. And guess who's legally barred from coming within 500 feet of any signing event? That's right. But, just when I thought it was over, when I finally exhaled, something arrived in my mailbox that chilled me to the bone. A single page, from Rachel's own diary. And it was about me. When someone tries to become you, it's terrifying. But when they start documenting it, planning it, writing it down like a ritual? That's no longer obsession. That's something darker. Something twisted. Something that made my skin crawl as I stared at the worn, water-stained page folded inside an unmarked envelope left in my mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Just my name, scribbled in red ink. I opened it with trembling hands. At the top, in bold lettering, it read, "To be Eva." What followed wasn't a letter. It was a list. A horrifying, step-by-step blueprint. 1. Borrow her perfume, wear it when he's around. 2. Compliment her dinner, mirror her tone. 3. Start dressing like her, note her jewelry. 4. Get invited inside. Take photos of kitchen, bedroom, mirror. 5. Record voice, practice. 6. Find weaknesses. Husband. Past. Insecurities. 7. Replace her slowly. She won't see it. 8. If she resists, escalate. 9. If she fights, destroy. 10. If she writes, end it. There was no signature. No date. Just those 10 lines, and a lipstick kiss at the bottom. The color? My exact shade. I sat down on the porch floor and just stared at the page. Not because I was afraid, no. That was gone. I stared because finally, I had undeniable proof that Rachel hadn't just been improvising her madness. She'd been crafting it. This wasn't emotional. It was engineered. I took the page straight to my attorney. It became a critical part of our civil case, evidence of premeditation. The kind of thing that turned her actions from harassment to stalking with intent to impersonate and defraud. But more than legal ammunition, that list lit a fire in me I hadn't felt in months. Because if she thought she could scare me into silence, she had no idea who she was dealing with. That night, I filmed a video. Not the usual polished story time. No music. No cuts. Just me, holding that page. Reading it line by line, into the lens. And then I said, this was her plan. But here's mine, I will speak. I will write. And I will never disappear. The video went viral in less than 6 hours. By morning, I had interviews lined up with national outlets. Other women started sharing their versions of Rachel, neighbors, co-workers, women who had been mimicked, gaslit, replaced, erased. She had a pattern. I wasn't her first. And I wasn't going to be her last, unless I made sure the entire world saw who she really was. But the biggest twist? One of those women, someone who messaged me from a tiny town 3 states away, sent a photo of her own list. Same format. Same lipstick kiss. Rachel had left the same diary page, for someone else. And that woman? She wasn't just a target. She was a witness. It came from a woman named Delilah Hart. A florist from Iowa. She sent a DM with 4 words, she did it to me. I clicked on her profile. Warm smile. Soft eyes. A woman who looked like she baked pies on Sundays and knew every bird by name. But the photo she sent next chilled my blood. It was the same diary page. Same lipstick kiss. Same 10 steps. Same obsession, copy, infiltrate, replace, erase. Delilah said it started 4 years ago. She hired a young woman named Ray Sinclair to help organize her garden business's online branding. Ray was polite, gentle, eager to learn. Then Delilah's perfume went missing. Her favorite brooch appeared on Ray's coat. Her boyfriend suddenly started texting Ray late at night, just to talk business. Delilah never got the chance to fight back the way I did. Ray disappeared one morning, after Delilah found the list folded inside her greenhouse ledger. No goodbye. No warning. Just a smear of pink lipstick and silence. Delilah had buried the incident. Her boyfriend left shortly after. Her business suffered. She never told anyone, until she saw my video. I called her. We spoke for 3 hours. We compared dates, photos, behaviors, aliases. It was Rachel, without question. Different town. Different victim. Same playbook. That's when I realized, Rachel wasn't obsessed with me. She was obsessed with control. I just happened to be the final chapter. The one who didn't fold. Delilah and I teamed up. 2 women from different coasts, bound by trauma, but sharper now. Stronger. We shared every scrap of evidence with our attorneys. And guess what? Delilah still had emails. Voicemails. Even a photo of Rachel holding a flower arrangement in her shop, labeled prototype. We compiled everything into a joint affidavit. We reopened Delilah's complaint. Our lawyers filed a class action petition, naming Rachel as a serial impersonator with intent to defraud and emotionally manipulate vulnerable women. And then, we did something bolder. We scheduled a live broadcast. Together. 2 women. 2 diary pages. 2 stolen lives. 1 screen. 1 voice. The world watched. We didn't cry. We didn't rage. We told the truth, measured, calm, undeniable. And somewhere out there, I know Rachel watched too. She didn't show her face. But her sister did. Yes. Rachel's own sister contacted us the next day. And what she told me changed everything. Because apparently, Rachel didn't become this way by accident. There's a difference between broken and dangerous. Broken can be healed. Dangerous has roots. I stopped seeing Rachel as just a stalker, a mimic, a master manipulator. Because after her own sister called me, I finally saw Rachel for what she really was, a woman who was trained to destroy women like me. Her sister's name was Bethany, soft-spoken, sounded like someone who hadn't slept through the night in years. She messaged me privately after our livestream went viral. I don't want to defend her. I just think, you deserve to know where this started. I almost didn't answer. But I did. I met her in a coffee shop 2 towns over, public place, cameras, Leah on speed dial. And Bethany? She brought proof. Photos. Journals. A taped interview she'd secretly recorded of their mother, weeks before she passed away. And the story she told me? It was worse than anything I imagined. Their mother had been a beauty queen, classic narcissist, Bethany said. The type who only loved what reflected her. And when Rachel was born, she looked just like her. So she turned Rachel into a living doll. She taught her to watch other women. To study them. If you can become what people desire, she used to say, you'll never be alone. Bethany showed me a page from Rachel's childhood journal. Today I watched Miss Carla walk her dog. She wears pearls. I'm going to wear pearls tomorrow. She was 9. The mimicry, the need to erase and replace, it didn't start with me. It started in a childhood where survival meant losing yourself completely. Rachel's mother would compare her daughters daily. Praise Rachel when she acted more like Bethany. Scold Bethany for being too boring to copy. Bethany told me, I stopped trying to be seen. Rachel stopped trying to be real. I sat in that cafe, hands cold around my cup, heartbreaking for a girl I had every reason to hate. And yet, I pitied her. Not enough to forgive. Not enough to forget. But enough to understand. Bethany had tried to get Rachel help. Multiple times. Therapy. Distance. Even changed her number. But Rachel would always find someone new to emulate. A new woman to shadow. To mirror. To become. That's why she was obsessed with me. Because I had something her mother never gave her, identity. Confidence. Wholeness. Rachel wasn't trying to steal my life. She was trying to borrow shape. Because she didn't know how to live without one. Bethany ended the conversation with a whisper, she's not finished. She never is. Until she's stopped, or someone stops her. I promised her I would. And I meant it. Because now I had more than just evidence. I had motive. And I knew exactly where Rachel would strike next, she always moved on when the fire got too hot. And she was already planting seeds with a new woman. How do I know? Because that woman messaged me the next day. And said, I think your stalker just applied to be my roommate. You know how predators hunt? They wait. They change terrain. They shed skin, but never instinct. And Rachel? She didn't disappear. She migrated. New look. New alias. New town. But she made one mistake, she used my words. And that's how I found her again. It was 6:12 p.m. on a quiet Thursday when the message came through. A woman named Lena Calder, a 33-year-old freelance designer from Denver, had been watching my series. Her message was short. "Hi Eva. I think your stalker just applied to be my roommate. Please tell me this sounds familiar." Attached was a screenshot. An application letter from a woman calling herself Rhea Caldwell. Polished. Kind. Normal. But the second line sent a chill down my spine. I believe healing is a sacred, messy act, and women who survive should share their stories. That was my quote. My exact phrasing from starting my memoir. Word. For. Word. I called Lena. Calm voice. Artistic. Sweet. She told me Rhea had replied to her roommate ad on a digital co-living site for creatives. Said she was a wellness blogger. Recently divorced. Looking to start over. Sound familiar? I asked Lena to describe her. Tall. Red hair now. But it's clearly dyed. Wears vintage. Real soft voice. And she said she's a writer. Of course she did. Lena told me Rhea hadn't moved in yet, just scheduled a video call for Sunday. Something felt off, Lena said. Like she was performing peace. I asked Lena for one thing, permission to join that call off-screen. And she said yes. Sunday came. I waited silently behind the camera as Rachel, now Rhea, appeared on Lena's screen. And there she was. My face, my cadence, my gestures. Slightly dulled down. Watered. But still undeniably me. She laughed too lightly. Nodded like she was trying to remember who she was pretending to be. And then, mid-call, Lena asked, "So, what kind of writing do you do?" Rachel smiled. My smile. I've been working on a book about recovering from betrayal, about learning to love your life again after people try to destroy it. That was it. I stepped into frame. Silent. And when she saw me? Her face drained of color like ink fading in the rain. She didn't speak. She didn't scream. She just stared. Frozen. And I said, "Hi, Rhea." Or Ray. Or Rachel. The performance ends now. Lena sat frozen too, eyes wide. I didn't want to hurt anyone, Rachel mumbled. I said nothing. Just held up a copy of the restraining order. You are done haunting women who are just trying to live their real lives. That video call? Recorded. Admissible. Sent directly to my attorney and to local authorities in Denver. Rachel violated her court-ordered restriction by impersonating me again. She hung up mid-call. And within 48 hours, she was tracked down at a short-term rental she paid for in cash. Lena was safe. But she wasn't the only one Rachel had contacted. Turns out, Rachel had applied to 4 roommate ads in 4 different cities. All women. All strong. All visible. She was trying to rebuild a new version of me. Again. But this time? She left a trail. And this time? I wasn't the only one watching her. Predators thrive in silence. And Rachel, Rhea, whoever she wanted to be that week? She depended on our isolation. She counted on shame, on disbelief, on the fact that most women don't come forward when someone steals their life in pieces instead of punches. But next, something happened that she never prepared for. We connected. We spoke. We stood. And we came for her. After Rachel's failed roommate con in Denver, I made a public appeal. Not a dramatic one. Not vengeful. Just a simple post across all platforms. If you've ever been targeted by a woman who mimicked you, manipulated you, inserted herself into your life until it didn't feel like yours anymore. I believe you. Message me. I didn't expect more than a few. I got 36. In 4 days. Women from New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, even Canada. They all had one thing in common: a woman who went by Ray, Rhea, Rachel, or Kay, who befriended them fast, studied them like a thesis project, then slowly began living their identity. One woman, Ivy, said Rachel started dressing like her after just 2 yoga classes. Within a month, she'd duplicated her entire capsule wardrobe and seduced her coworker. Another, Marissa, a therapist from Oregon, said Rachel posed as a patient, recorded their sessions without consent, and later used her own words in a viral blog post under a fake name. One woman had to move. Another nearly lost custody of her child when Rachel forged emotional abuse claims by faking texts. It was no longer a pattern. It was a network of damage. So we formed our own network, the Survivors Circle. Private chat. Legal collaboration. Evidence vault. Each woman submitted their story. Screenshots. Voice notes. Photos. And together, we submitted it all to a federal cyberstalking task force. One of the investigators told us, "This is the first time we've seen a case like this organized, where a woman has serially inserted herself into dozens of lives, not for money, but for identity domination." They opened a multi-state investigation. And then, the final straw, one of the women, Jordan, had been tracking her old phone out of paranoia. It pinged unexpectedly, at a public library computer in Colorado. Jordan had never been to Colorado. Guess who had? Authorities pulled security footage. There she was. Rachel. Pale. Hoodie. Typing away like she was rewriting her own mythology. Again. Except this time, they had her face, IP address, location, intent, and dozens of testimonies behind her. A warrant was issued. She was arrested quietly, no cameras, no mugshots. But we knew. Each of us got a call that day. Rachel Whitaker is in custody. It wasn't a celebration. It was an exhale. We had stopped a woman who could have gone on mimicking, erasing, and wrecking lives for decades. You'd think when someone's caught impersonating dozens of women, violating restraining orders, faking identities, and hacking accounts, they'd hang their head in shame. You'd think they'd apologize. Beg. Whisper "I'm sorry" just once. But Rachel? Rachel walked into court like she was the victim. And next, she didn't just deny everything, she pointed her shaking, manicured finger across that courtroom and blamed me. The courtroom was packed. Rows of women who'd come forward, Delilah, Lena, Ivy, Jordan, Marissa, sat shoulder to shoulder, each of us connected by pain, but stronger now. And Rachel, she looked different. Cleaned up. Buttoned blouse. Hair tucked back. But her eyes, they hadn't changed. Still calculating. Still studying. The prosecutor laid it all out. Dozens of alias accounts, false roommate applications, hidden cameras, forged blog posts, social media impersonation, harassment, cyberstalking, identity fraud, and then it was her turn. She stood slowly. Took a deep breath. And said, "I was trying to heal. I was mimicking women I admired. But I never meant harm. I was studying for survival." The room stiffened. Then she added, calmly, without blinking, "And if Eva had just accepted my apology, this wouldn't have spiraled. She made me the villain. She made me famous." There it was. The twist. The lie she'd been practicing. Her lawyer passed out evidence that included screenshots from my memoir, my live streams, my quote cards. Rachel claimed I had turned her into an internet meme, weaponized the public against her, and created a hostile narrative that damaged her mental health. The judge stared in silence. My lawyer whispered, "Let her dig." Then Rachel turned toward the gallery and said, I wasn't stealing Eva's life. I was living the version of her life that she threw away. I stood. The judge allowed it. And for the first time, I spoke directly to her. Rachel, I didn't throw away my life. I rebuilt it. From the ruins you left behind. And if you think copying strength makes you strong, you've misunderstood everything. You didn't love me. You didn't admire me. You wanted to delete me. And I survived you. Rachel's face cracked for the first time. Not with guilt. Not with tears. But with something deeper. Fear. Because now, the courtroom didn't believe her. And the woman she tried to erase? Was standing. The judge scheduled sentencing. We requested a no-contact clause for every known victim. Rachel will never be allowed to publish, post, or rebrand herself under any of our names ever again. She left in cuffs. No cameras. No grand finale. Just the silence of a woman who lost control of her narrative. But me? I left with something better than vengeance. Validation. And still, one thing was left behind. Because tucked into her purse, confiscated by court officers, was a worn notebook. And inside? A new list. One that didn't have my name. It had Lena's younger sister. They say prison bars can hold a body, but not a mind. And Rachel? Her body might have been locked up, but her obsession? It was still slithering through the cracks. Next begins with a notebook. A worn leather-bound journal confiscated from her purse the day of her sentencing. Most of it was nonsense, scribbles, song lyrics, half-finished blog drafts. But one page stood out. It wasn't addressed to me. It wasn't even about me. It was about Lena's little sister. 17 years old. In high school. Barely on social media. And somehow, already on Rachel's radar. There was a list again, name, M. Calder. Seen on Lena's stories. Looks just like her but softer. Start email campaign in 6 months, mentorship angle. Rebrand through youth. Eva 2. Eva. Still. I stared at that list, hands trembling. Rachel wasn't done. She was evolving. Getting younger. Going subtler. And she planned to wait 6 months. Long enough for parole evaluations, long enough for good behavior petitions. She had already laid the groundwork. But this time? We weren't scared. We were ready. I sat down with Lena, her sister, our lawyers, and, yes, an FBI cyberstalking agent now assigned to the case. We crafted a sting. A digital mirror. A fake social account for M. Carefully curated with bait, interests, vulnerabilities, content designed to draw Rachel's attention if she ever accessed the outside world. We gave her exactly what she wanted, a new target. A new girl to mold. A new Eva. And when Rachel took the bait, through a proxy contact she still had on the outside, we caught everything. She used her court-approved therapist's laptop during a supervised journaling session. Used a Google Drive login under a fake name. Wrote to M. As Ray_Light, offering mentorship, calling her a rare mirror in a noisy world. But the IP was traced. The content was monitored. And the moment the connection was confirmed, Rachel's parole privileges were revoked. She was reclassified. Transferred to a higher security facility. And this time, she wasn't just facing stalking charges. She was facing digital predation. But the real victory? Was what happened after. Lena's sister stood up at our next Survivors Circle meeting. She read a message Rachel had sent, edited by authorities and cleared for emotional closure. It said, "I never wanted to be evil. I just didn't know who I was without someone else to echo." And M. only 17, looked up at all of us, Delilah, Ivy, Jordan, Marissa, Lena, me, and said, I do. I know who I am. And I'll never let anyone else wear my face. That was the moment I knew. It was over. Rachel Whitaker, the woman who tried to live as me, through me, instead of me, was gone. Her power broken. Her pattern interrupted. Because women who fight alone survive. But women who fight together? End the cycle. Before I close this story, I want to say something to you, watching this. Maybe you found this channel by accident. Maybe you've followed from starting. But if you've ever felt watched, copied, erased, or invaded, this chapter is for you. Because it's not just a story about a woman who tried to replace me. It's about what happens when a woman decides, no one gets to write her ending but her. Rachel is gone. Not just legally. Not just digitally. Emotionally. Mentally. She no longer has access to me, because I've closed every door she tried to walk through. She tried to become me. She copied my scent, my voice, my outfits, my words. She seduced my husband, infiltrated my friends, hacked my devices, and planted cameras in my home. She made burner accounts. Ghost wrote memoirs. Studied me like I was an open book she could annotate in red ink. And for a long time, I blamed myself. For being too kind. Too trusting. Too open. But now? I don't regret any of that. Because being open was never the weakness. Her hatred for herself was. I survived a kind of betrayal most people can't even name. It wasn't a break-in. It wasn't a knife. It was slow. Creeping. Soft. It smiled. It complimented my lasagna. It asked to borrow sugar. It wore my shoes. But I'm still here. And I didn't just survive, I rebuilt. My memoir is published in my name. Our survivors' circle has grown to over 200 women. Delilah reopened her shop. Lena launched a podcast about real identity recovery. And she just got accepted to a psychology program. She wants to study imitation trauma. She said, if Rachel had gotten help sooner, maybe none of this would have happened. I don't disagree. But I also don't excuse it. Because healing doesn't mean pretending the wound wasn't deep. It means showing the scar and saying, you didn't end me. I don't dream about her anymore. I don't check the mirror to make sure it's still me. I don't fear the echo. Because now, my voice is louder than hers ever was. So if you're watching this and someone has tried to steal your shine, your style, yourself, I want you to say this with me, I am not replaceable. I am not an echo. I am the original. Thank you for staying with me through all story. Thank you for believing my truth. Thank you for witnessing. And if this story resonated with you, if you felt seen, heard, or healed, please like, share, and subscribe my channel. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I want to know how far this voice travels. And to Rachel, if you're still watching this somehow, you didn't become me. You became the reason I found myself again. Goodbye. For real this time. Fade to black. Text on screen, no one can replace you when you finally remember who you are.